I was sitting at my desk before dawn coffee going cold beside me, reviewing quarterly reports that told a story I had been writing for 12 years. 12 years of building my father's construction supply business from 20 employees to over 100. I knew every client by name, every supplier contact, every seasonal fluctuation in demand. I thought my dad saw my dedication, saw what I had poured into this company. Until that Tuesday morning when he walked into my office with my brother trailing behind him, and something in his expression made my stomach drop. The pride I had carried for over a decade suddenly felt heavy, like I had been holding up a ceiling that was about to collapse. Before I tell you how everything unraveled, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you have ever felt unappreciated at work or in your family, hit that like button, because you are going to understand exactly what I went through. Subscribe, because what happened next taught me the hardest lesson about self-worth I have ever learned. Let me take you back to that morning and show you how 12 years of loyalty can crumble in a single conversation. My typical morning started at 5:30 a.m., arriving at the warehouse when the parking lot was still empty, except for the security guard's truck. I would unlock the main office, flip on the lights, and start checking inventory manifests before the first delivery trucks rolled in at 6. This place was not just a job to me, it was everything. I knew the names of every single employee. Jake, our warehouse manager, had 2 daughters in middle school. Maria, in accounting, was putting herself through night school. Tommy, on the loading dock, was saving up to propose to his girlfriend. These were not just workers to me. They were people I cared about. People whose lives depended on this business running smoothly. My father hired me when I was 16 years old. I started on the loading dock hauling 50-pound bags of concrete mix in the summer heat until my shoulders burned. I worked every position in that company: forklift operator, inventory clerk, customer service, purchasing, sales. By the time I was 25, I was managing operations. By 30, I was the reason we had expanded into 3 counties. Now, at 32, I handled everything from procurement negotiations with suppliers to resolving client complaints at 11 p.m. when deadlines were tight. I was proud of what we had built together. The business had grown from a small local supplier into a regional player. Our revenue had tripled in 8 years. We had a reputation for reliability that I had personally cultivated, returning phone calls within the hour, delivering on promises, solving problems before they became crises. Deep down, I had a dream I never voiced out loud. I hoped that one day my dad would make me a partner, that my name would go up on that building beside his. But then there was Tyler, my younger brother, 24 years old, and his resume was a graveyard of false starts. He had dropped out of college 3 times, trying 3 different majors and never making it past sophomore year. He had never held a job longer than 4 months. Currently, he was living in our parents' house, playing video games until 3 in the morning, sleeping until noon, contributing nothing. Tyler would show up at the warehouse occasionally, usually when Dad pressured him. He would wander around for a couple of hours, then disappear after lunch with some excuse about having things to do. I had tried to be supportive. I really had. I offered him an entry-level position twice, thinking maybe he just needed structure, needed to feel useful. Both times he quit after 2 weeks, saying the work was boring or the hours were too early. There was this one specific memory that stuck with me. Tyler had been operating a forklift even though he had barely finished the safety training. He left it running in the middle of the loading area with the keys still in it and the gate wide open. When I found it an hour later, I asked him what happened. He just shrugged and said the controls were confusing, like it was not a big deal, that someone could have driven off with $15,000 worth of equipment. I loved my brother. I did. But watching him coast through life while I worked 70-hour weeks created this low-grade resentment I tried to ignore. I told myself everyone finds their path at different speeds, that maybe he would eventually figure things out. But deep down, I was frustrated. Frustrated that he had every opportunity and squandered them all. Frustrated that he did not seem to care about anything except his own comfort. That Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock, my dad called me into his office. The moment I walked in and saw Tyler slouched in the corner chair scrolling through his phone, I knew something was coming. My father's office had wood paneling that had been there since the 1980s, walls covered with photos of completed construction projects and a shelf full of dusty industry awards. Dad sat behind his desk, weathered hands, folded reading glasses perched on his nose, his graying beard neatly trimmed. He looked up at me and said, "Herbert, sit down. We need to talk about succession planning." My heart lifted. This was it. This was the conversation I had been waiting for. Years of proving myself were finally going to pay off. "I am not getting younger," Walter continued. "This business needs to stay in the family. That is what matters most to me." I nodded, agreeing completely. Family legacy. I understood that. I had devoted my entire adult life to building that legacy. Then he said it. "That is why I want you to train Tyler to take over operations." The floor dropped out from under me. I must have heard him wrong. "Tyler, take over operations. He is family." Dad explained like it was the most logical thing in the world. "He needs a real chance. You know this business inside and out. You are the perfect person to teach him everything." I sat there trying to process. 12 years. 12 years of early mornings and late nights of missing family dinners and canceling plans because a shipment was delayed or a client had an emergency. 12 years of building relationships, streamlining operations, growing revenue. And my reward was to train my replacement. My replacement who could not even bother to look up from his phone during this conversation. I tried to reason with him. "Dad, Tyler has quit twice already. He does not show up on time. He does not follow through on basic tasks. How can he possibly?" Walter cut me off, his tone dismissive. "He was young then. He is ready now. Aren't you, son?" Tyler finally looked up, barely engaged. "Yeah, sure, whatever you need. Whatever you need." Not even pretending to care. I pushed back as gently as I could. "I can give him another entry-level position, help him learn the basics again, but operations manager, Dad, that is not something you learn in 6 months. That takes years of. I am not asking you to make him manager tomorrow." Walter interrupted again. "Train him properly. 6 months. Then, we will transition responsibilities." The words hit me like cold water. Transition responsibilities. He was not asking me to train an assistant. He was asking me to train my replacement. After everything I had done, everything I had sacrificed, I was being positioned as the stepping stone for someone who had never earned anything in his life. "Can I think about this?" I asked, my voice carefully controlled. My father's face hardened. "What is there to think about? He is your brother. This is what family does." The meeting ended there, awkward silence filling the room as I stood and walked out. Tyler did not even look up from his phone. The next day, Tyler showed up at 11 a.m. instead of 8, 3 hours late on his second day of this so-called training. I was already dealing with a supplier issue, 2 employee scheduling conflicts, and a client who needed a rush order by end of business. When Tyler finally strolled in, wearing sweatpants and a wrinkled t-shirt, coffee in hand, from the shop 2 blocks away, I took a deep breath and tried to be patient. I assigned him something simple. Update our client contact database. We had about 200 active clients, and their contact information changed periodically. People switched companies, got promoted, updated phone numbers. The database needed maintenance, and it was straightforward work. Check the old information, make calls to confirm current contacts, update the system. A high school intern could do it. Tyler sat at the desk I had set up for him, opened his laptop, and immediately pulled out his phone. For the next 4 hours, he was on that phone constantly. Personal calls, text messages, social media. I walked by several times and glanced at his screen. He had maybe completed 10% of the task. At 3 p.m., I pulled up a chair beside him. "Tyler, this is important work. These client relationships are what keep us in business. They trust us because we stay connected, because we care about the details." He looked at me like I was being ridiculous. "Relax, bro. Dad said you are training me, not bossing me around. I will get it done." But he did not get it done at 5 p.m. When most of the office staff left, Tyler packed up and headed out without finishing even a quarter of the assignment. I stayed until 8, finishing it myself, because I could not leave client information inaccurate. That was not how I operated. That evening, I called my mom, Patricia. I needed to talk to someone who might understand my frustration. She listened sympathetically as I explained what was happening, how Tyler was not taking any of this seriously, how Dad seemed blind to it. "Your father really wants to give Tyler a chance," she said gently. "You know how he worries about him. Can you try to be patient? For your father's sake." I felt trapped. If I said no, I was the bad son, the bad brother. If I said yes, I was enabling someone who had no interest in actually learning. But I agreed to try, because what else could I do? The next 2 weeks were a nightmare. On Monday of the second week, Tyler did not show up at all. He texted me at 10:30 a.m., saying he had car trouble, but I saw his Instagram stories later that evening. He had posted photos from the gym at 9 a.m., clearly fine, clearly not stranded anywhere. Tuesday, he showed up, but spent 3 solid hours on personal phone calls in the break room. I assigned him to shadow me during a purchasing meeting with one of our major suppliers. We were negotiating pricing on bulk lumber orders for the next quarter, a deal worth nearly $200,000. Halfway through the meeting, I glanced over and Tyler had fallen asleep. Actually fallen asleep, head tilted back, mouth open. The supplier noticed and made an uncomfortable joke about young people needing their rest. I had to apologize profusely after the meeting, assuring them we were serious about the partnership, that it would not happen again. Wednesday was the disaster that nearly broke me. I decided to give Tyler one small test, something concrete to see if he could handle real responsibility. A client called needing 40 sheets of 3/4-inch plywood-specific grade for exterior use. Standard order, nothing complicated. I walked Tyler through the process step by step. Check inventory. Confirm we have the right grade. Fill out the order form. Arrange delivery. Simple. Tyler nodded along like he understood. I watched him start the process, then got pulled away to handle another issue. 2 hours later, I got a furious phone call from the client. They had received 4 sheets of plywood instead of 40, and it was the wrong grade entirely. Interior grade instead of exterior. They had a crew standing around, unable to work, losing an entire day of construction because of this mistake. I had to personally load the correct order into a truck, drive it to their job site 30 miles away, unload it myself, and discount the entire job by 20% to salvage the relationship. A client we had worked with for 8 years, and Tyler had nearly destroyed that trust in one careless moment. When I confronted him later, his response was infuriating. "Everyone makes mistakes, man. You are making a big deal out of nothing." Nothing. He called losing a client relationship nothing. By the second week, I was finding Tyler smoking behind the warehouse during our busiest delivery period, while the rest of us were running around trying to coordinate 5 trucks. 3 different employees had quietly complained to me that Tyler kept asking them to do his work for him, trying to pass off his assignments to people who already had full workloads. Then Jake, my warehouse manager and one of my most trusted people, pulled me aside on Thursday afternoon. His face was serious. "Herbert, I need to ask you something, and I need a straight answer. Is Tyler really going to run this place someday? Because if that is the actual plan, I am updating my resume tonight. I have got 2 daughters to support, and I cannot work somewhere that is going to fall apart." That hit me hard. Jake had been with us for 9 years. He was loyal, competent, someone I relied on completely, and he was ready to quit because he could see what I could see. This was not going to work. The employees were losing respect for the leadership because they could see Tyler was being handed something he had not earned and did not value. Friday afternoon, the inventory catastrophe happened. Once a month, we did a complete physical inventory reconciliation. We counted everything in the warehouse, then cross-referenced those counts with what our computer system said we should have. It usually took a full day of careful work, checking and double-checking, because any errors would make it look like we were missing materials, which could mean thousands of dollars in losses. I gave Tyler this one responsibility: reconcile the monthly inventory. I showed him exactly how to do it. Match the physical count sheets with the system numbers. Where there are discrepancies, investigate why. It was tedious but straightforward. Tyler rushed through the entire thing in 1 hour. 1 hour for a job that should have taken 8. He submitted his report and left for the weekend. That evening I glanced at his work and my heart sank. The numbers were completely wrong. According to his report, we were missing over $30,000 worth of materials. Lumber, concrete, steel supplies just gone. It would look like massive theft or catastrophic mismanagement. I knew it was not real. I knew Tyler had just clicked through screens without paying attention, probably transposed numbers or skipped entire sections. But I could not leave it like that. Our financial audit was in 2 weeks, and submitting false inventory numbers could create serious legal problems. I stayed at the warehouse until 3 a.m., physically recounting entire sections, myself correcting every error Tyler had made. I did not sleep. I ran on coffee and frustration fixing his mess so the company would not suffer. By morning I had the correct numbers, but I was exhausted and furious. Friday afternoon I called Tyler into my office. I was done trying to be gentle. I sat him down and laid it all out. This is not working. You are not taking this seriously. Look at this. I showed him the inventory errors, pulled up the client complaints, showed him his attendance record. I want to help you, Tyler. I really do. But you have to actually try. You have to care. His response was defensive and hostile. You are just mad Dad chose me over you. You think you are so perfect, but maybe you are just a control freak who cannot handle someone else getting attention. My anger rose. Mad that he chose you, Tyler. You have not earned anything. I started on the loading dock at 16. You cannot even show up on time at 24. Maybe if you actually taught me instead of setting me up to fail. Setting you up, I have given you the easiest possible tasks. Our voices were rising now, both of us on our feet. That was when my father walked in. He had heard us arguing from down the hall. What is going on here? I turned to him, expecting that finally, he would see reality. I explained everything. Tyler's failures, the client complaints, the inventory disaster, the employees threatening to quit. I laid it all out clearly, calmly, with specific examples. I expected my dad to understand. Instead, he turned to me, not Tyler, and said, "So, you are saying you cannot train him?" I stared at him, stunned. That is not what I am saying. Dad, he is not trying. He does not care. Or maybe you are not trying hard enough to teach him, Walter shot back. These things take time, Herbert. He is adjusting. He actually defended Tyler. After everything I had just explained, he defended him. He turned to Tyler. Go on home, son. We will talk Monday and figure this out. Tyler left, and I swear I saw him smirking as he walked out the door. Alone in the office with my father, the air felt heavy. Walter closed the door and turned to face me, and I could see anger in his expression. Not at Tyler, at me. I am disappointed in you, Herbert, he said, and each word felt like a blow. I thought you would be mature about this, but you are acting jealous. Petty. Jealous I could barely get the word out. Dad, I have given 12 years to this company. 12 years of my life. And I have given you a job, a salary, a career, he countered. After everything I have provided for you, this is how you repay me, by refusing to help your own brother. Something inside me cracked. A job, I thought I was building a legacy. I thought we were building this together. We were. We are. But it is still my company, Herbert. I make the decisions. And I have decided that Tyler deserves a chance to be part of this. I felt hollow. Years of devotion, of sacrifice. And he saw it as just a job. Just me being an employee. Not a partner. Not a builder. An employee who should do what he was told. Did I ever even matter to you? My voice cracked with emotion I could not hold back anymore. Or was I just the workhorse until the favorite son grew up? My father's face went cold. That is ungrateful. Incredibly ungrateful. I gave you opportunities most people never get. You gave me opportunities to make you successful, I said quietly. But you never saw me as an equal, just as a tool. If you cannot do what I am asking, Walter, said his voice hard, now maybe you should think about whether you belong here at all. There it was, the ultimatum, the line in the sand. Then he said the words I would never forget. "The door is always open, Herbert, but if you walk through it, do not expect to come back." I stood there looking at my father, and suddenly everything became clear. He would never see me as anything more than an employee. My years of devotion, my sacrifices, the life I had poured into this company meant nothing if I did not fall in line. Stay and lose every ounce of self-respect, or leave and lose everything I had built. The choice felt impossible, but somewhere deep down I knew there was only one choice I could live with. I went home that Friday night and did not sleep. I sat at my kitchen table looking at my bank account, my lease, my expenses, trying to figure out if I could survive independently. The numbers were tight but possible. I had saved money because I worked so much I barely had time to spend it. I could make it work for a few months while I figured things out. But it was not really about money. It was about something deeper. It was about whether I could look at myself in the mirror if I stayed. By Saturday morning, I had made my decision. I drove back to the office. I still had my key. Dad and Tyler were not there, of course. Dad had started taking weekends off years ago, and Tyler never worked weekends. The building was empty, except for the hum of the refrigeration units in the back warehouse. I spent 4 hours doing something that hurt but felt necessary. I wrote out a detailed transition document, every critical operation, every supplier contact, every client relationship that needed maintenance. I organized files so that theoretically someone could step in and keep things running. I was not sabotaging anything. I was being professional even though they did not deserve it. I backed up my personal client contacts, the relationships I had built through years of work. Those were mine, not the company's. Then I took all my personal items from my office. Photos, awards, the coffee mug my team had given me on my 30th birthday. I left the transition document on my father's desk with a simple note on top. I am done. Best of luck. Herbert. I placed my key beside it and walked out at noon. My hands were shaking as I drove away. I looked in the rearview mirror at the building that had been my second home for 12 years, and I felt this strange mixture of grief and relief, like I was losing something precious but escaping something toxic at the same time. I called my mom that afternoon. She cried and begged me to reconsider, to just talk to Dad again to work it out. But I was firm. I cannot stay somewhere. I am not valued, Mom. I just cannot. The first week of freedom felt surreal. Monday morning I woke up and did not have anywhere to be. For the first time in 12 years, I slept past 6 a.m. It felt wrong at first, like I was forgetting something important. But by Tuesday, I started to breathe easier. I updated my resume and realized something surprising. My experience was actually impressive. Operations management for a multi-million-dollar company, revenue growth, team leadership, process optimization. On paper, I looked like someone any business would want. By Wednesday, I started reaching out to former clients, the ones where I had built personal relationships independent of the company. 3 of them called me back within hours. 2 were competitors of my father's business who had always respected my work. They offered me positions immediately, operations roles with better pay than I had been making. The third was a client who suggested I start my own consulting firm helping small construction supply businesses improve their operations. He said he would be my first client. I had 3 solid job offers by the end of the first week. The fear started to fade, replaced by something I had not felt in years. Possibility. Meanwhile, I heard through my mother what was happening at the business. Monday, my father was confident. He figured he and Tyler could handle things. How hard could it be? Tuesday, a major client called asking specifically for me. They had a complex order with tight specifications. Walter tried to handle it but did not know the details of their account, the specific preferences they had, the history of what had worked for them in the past. He fumbled through the call and got the order wrong. They called back furious later that day. Wednesday, a supplier shipment arrived and it was completely wrong. 30 pallets of materials that we had not ordered. Apparently, I had always double-checked these shipments against our purchase orders, catching errors before they became problems. No one else knew that system. The warehouse floor was now cluttered with unusable materials that would have to be returned, costing time and money. Tyler, overwhelmed by the reality of actual work, called in sick on Wednesday. He did not come back. Thursday, 2 employees quit. Good employees, people who had been there for years. They saw the chaos and decided they were not going down with the ship. By Friday, my father was working 14-hour days, trying desperately to hold things together. He was 61 years old and suddenly doing the work of 3 people. He started to realize what I had actually been doing all those years, how many plates I had been keeping in the air. My mom told me he looked exhausted, defeated, but still too proud to call me. The second week was when everything truly collapsed. Wednesday morning, 10 days after I had left, my mother called me crying. "Herbert, you have to come back. Please." "Mom, I cannot do that. Your father will not admit it, but the business is falling apart. I am scared for him. I am scared for everything we have built." She told me everything. 3 major clients had canceled their contracts. They had relationships with me, not with the company. When they heard I was gone, they took their business elsewhere. Tyler had quit after only 4 days, saying it was too stressful, and he was not cut out for it. 2 more veteran employees had given their notice. The suppliers were threatening to stop deliveries because there was confusion about payments. I had managed all those vendor relationships, knew exactly when invoices were due, maintained the trust that kept credit flowing. Without me, that system was breaking down. Thursday, Jake called me. "Man, I do not want to put you in a tough spot, but I have to ask. You looking for a warehouse manager? Because I am giving my notice next week. I cannot watch this place fall apart." I realized something then. The team had not been loyal to the company. They had been loyal to me. I had built that culture, earned that trust, and when I left their reason to stay left with them. Friday afternoon, 12 days after I walked out, someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it and found my father standing there. He looked like he had aged 10 years. His shoulders sagged. His eyes were red. He looked defeated. We stood there in silence for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Can we talk?" I stepped aside and let him in. I offered him coffee. We sat at my small kitchen table, and for the first time in my life, I saw my father struggle for words. "I made a mistake," he finally said. "I did not realize how much you actually did, how much the business depended on you." He told me Tyler had quit, said it was not for him after all. He told me about the clients leaving, the employees quitting, the chaos of trying to manage everything alone. "I need you back, Herbert. I need your help." I looked at him calmly. I was not angry anymore. I was just clear. "What has changed, Dad? 2 weeks ago you called me ungrateful. You were ready to throw away 12 years of my work for someone who did not care about any of it." He started to defend himself. "He is my son. I wanted to give him a chance." "So am I," I interrupted. "I am your son too." The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, my father broke. "You are right. You are absolutely right, and I was wrong. I was so focused on trying to help Tyler that I could not see I was hurting you. I took you for granted because you were always there, always reliable. I thought you always would be. You need to tell me something," I said, "and I need the truth. What did you value more, the idea of Tyler succeeding or the reality of what I had built?" Walter looked down at his hands. "I think I got caught up in guilt. I was not there for you much when you were young. Always working, always building the business. I missed your games, your school events, so much of your life. When Tyler struggled, I saw it as a second chance to be a better father. I thought if I could set him up with the business, I could make up for failing him too." His voice cracked. "But I failed you worse. You were right there doing everything right, and I did not see you. I am sorry, Herbert. I am truly sorry." It was the first genuine conversation we had had in years. Maybe ever. "If I come back," I said carefully, "things have to change." "What do you want?" he asked. I laid out my terms. Partnership. My name on the building. 30% equity stake in the company. Final say on all operations decisions. No more family nepotism. Employees hired and promoted based on merit only. If Tyler ever wanted to work there again, he started at entry level, like everyone else. No exceptions, no special treatment. I watched my father's face. Pride was fighting with reality. "You are holding the business hostage," he asked. "No," I said firmly. "I am establishing my worth. You are free to say no. I already have 3 other offers. I do not need you, Dad. The question is, do you need me?" He sat there for what felt like forever. Then slowly, he nodded. "You are right. I should have made you partner years ago. I should have seen what you were building." We shook hands across the table. It was not a magical reconciliation. The hurt was still there, but it was honest. "Can I tell you something?" Walter said. "I think I saw Tyler as a second chance to be a better father, because I was not there for you when you were young. But what I did not understand is that you did not need me to give you the business. You needed me to see you, to value you. And I failed at that." "I know," I said quietly. "But maybe we can start over." Monday morning, I walked back into the warehouse. The relief on the employees' faces was immediate. Jake canceled his resignation on the spot. "Glad you are back, boss." I got to work. Called the clients who had left and rebuilt those relationships one conversation at a time. Fixed the supplier payment issues. Reorganized the workflow that had fallen apart. Within 3 weeks, the business was stabilizing. The changes came quickly after that. We hired a lawyer to draw up partnership papers. A new sign went up outside. Walter and Herbert Supply Company. Seeing my name up there finally recognized felt surreal. Tyler tried to come back a month later, saying he was ready to try again. I said no. Not yet. Maybe in a year if you are serious about learning. But if you do come back, you start at the bottom, loading dock just like I did. You earn your way up. Tyler was angry. But this time, Dad backed me up. Herbert is right. That is how it works now. Over the following months, the business did not just recover. It thrived. I made changes I had wanted to implement for years. Better employee benefits, profit-sharing programs, a clear promotion system based on merit. Morale improved, productivity increased, revenue grew. My father stepped back more, finally starting to enjoy semi-retirement. For the first time in decades, he had time for family. We started going to ball games together, having real conversations, building a relationship that was not just about work. My own life improved too. I finally had time for dating, for hobbies, for friends. I learned what work-life balance felt like, and I realized something important. Walking away had been the best decision I ever made. Not because it made me win some power struggle, but because it taught me that my worth was not dependent on anyone else's recognition. People ask me sometimes if I regret those 12 years before I walked out. I do not. I learned everything I know during that time. I built something real, developed skills that are valuable anywhere. But I also learned something more important. Loyalty without self-respect is not loyalty. It is servitude. Your family can love you and still not see you clearly. Sometimes the people closest to us take us for granted precisely because we are always there. They assume we always will be. Walking away is not about punishment or revenge. It is about establishing that you are not a tool. You are a person with value, with dignity, with the right to be respected. My relationship with my dad is better now than it ever was when I was trying to earn his approval. Because I stopped performing and started requiring respect. And Tyler. He ended up getting a job at a restaurant working as a line cook. He is actually learning work ethic for the first time in his life. Maybe he will figure it out eventually. I hope he does. But here is what I want you to understand. If you are watching this and you feel invisible in your own family, your own job, your own relationships, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. Not forever necessarily, but long enough for people to remember that you are not guaranteed. Your presence is a gift. Your effort is a gift. Your loyalty is a gift. Do not let anyone treat those things like obligations they are owed. I am Herbert. I am 33 now. I am a partner in a successful business. My name is on the building. I have a life outside of work. I have a relationship with my father that is built on mutual respect instead of unspoken resentment. and I finally know what I am worth. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to walk away from something you built to prove your value? Have you ever felt taken for granted by family or at work? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one, and I promise you are not alone in this struggle. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel because I share real stories about real struggles and real growth. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their worth is not defined by how much they sacrifice. And thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you see your own situation more clearly. Remember, you teach people how to treat you. Sometimes you teach them by staying. Sometimes you teach them by leaving. The choice is always yours. Take care of yourselves out there, and know that you deserve to be valued for everything you bring to the table. Until next time.